Ballyhale up against St Thomas's of Galway this Sunday. Thurles at 3:30. It's going to be live on TG Car. This year's AIB Club Championships celebrate the toughest players in Gaelic games, those who keep going and persevere no matter what, and this Sunday's showdown is set to be no exception. We've had a lot of club players on the show over the last few weeks, and that line about keeping going and persevering no matter what is applicable for a huge amount of them in the club game, where they've been waiting 10, 15, 20 years to win a club title. You're kind of the opposite. Have you ever lost a senior club game with Ballyhale?
You broke up there just on me on the last bit there.
I was just saying that you have a remarkable record since you came in with Ballyhale in goals. I don't think you've ever lost a senior championship game.
Yeah, just fortunate enough with the timing and everything. It's all gone my way and a couple other lads' ways to date or whatever, and these opportunities don't come around too often, so we just try and make the most of it as best we can, because we all are well aware that there is a drought between everyone. Even our own club, there was a time there we haven't won through the 90s or whatever, so just these opportunities are around again, so we just grab it by the horns and just go for it.
At what stage as a group do you talk about All-Ireland success as opposed to just county final, because it's so competitive in Kilkenny, and while Ballyhale have had a huge amount of success, it is one of those clubs you expect them to be contending for All-Ireland series as well. Was this something you sat down at the start of the year knowing that the championship wasn't there last year, thinking we want to make a real go of this and do 3 in a row?
Well, yeah, we just kind of take it like county, provincial, and then All-Ireland at a time, but deep down, we would have been thinking about it, the fact that the competition didn't go ahead last year, and we were in such great form coming into the final as well at the time. So, just to be back at it this year again, and just to make up for last year, I suppose, as well, just keep driving it, because the players are still there or whatever, and the hunger and the drive is still there for us all to do well.
What age were you when you first played for Ballyhale in a championship match?
I was 17.
Right. That's quite a dressing room to be coming into, I'd imagine. Was that Henry's first year in charge?
It was, yeah. So when Henry came into management the first year over us, it was also my first year as well.
How does that conversation go? Do you get a call on a Wednesday, Thursday evening asking you to come down?
Yeah, so it just came to the year that everyone, so you'll be up to the age or you'll be eligible for senior. So at the start of the year, in I think it was either December or January, that they called us, everyone in, and they said, look, they made the WhatsApp group chat or whatever, and they said that this is the panel or whatever, and we'll go forward from here, and training was on or whatever. And that was kind of where it started then, and just there'd be a couple of different games. There'd be like the Burn Cup and challenge games and all that, where you get your chance and you just kind of go from there, really.
Can you talk about growing up in Ballyhale, and growing up in Ballyhale at the time of Henry Shefflin? You're probably 6, 7, 8, that age where you have such heroes and you look to emulate them, and you get to see him around the village, and you get to see him down at the pitch. You get to see him around all the time, and he's held up as this god around the entire country. What was it like to be able to be around that as a kid?
It was just amazing at the time, because you just see all these people, you see him on the telly or whatever, and you see him winning with Kilkenny, and you see him with the club lifting trophies, climbing the steps of Croke Park, and you're just that's what I want to do, that's where I want to be, if they can do it and they're only living up the road for me, well then if I put my head down, things like that will open up for me. And then as time goes on and you get older, you begin to have conversations with them, then your paths would meet and they cross, and you just keep talking to them, and you just kind of see what they think and what their views on things are, and just try to pick up little bits and try to learn from that.
It is an incredible place, Ballyhale. We were down there doing a show a couple of years back, and for a club with such success, people would look for a secret, or they'd be looking at the resources that they are there. And at the time, I think there was still just the one pitch. They were sort of working on the second pitch at the time. There was the changing rooms, and it wasn't salubrious dressing rooms or anything like that. It is young lads down hurling the hand every day of the week. It's as straightforward as that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's two main pitches, then we've now got 2 juvenile pitches there as well. We have a 4 dressing rooms, and we have a bit of a gym there now as well that we've built up, but that's all we have. There's no big meeting rooms or big clubhouse or anything like that. It's just literally the hurling field and the hurling the ball, and just off you go,
Going in at 17 as a keeper with the senior club side, very young age, a lot of pressure, I'd imagine. How'd you deal with that? And how do you deal with it differently now, even 3-4 years on?
So at the start, you would be very nervous, always thinking about it as well, right. Especially just the different kind of the fast and pace of the game. Especially when I was only 17, playing the first couple of challenge matches or whatever, just adapting and changing. And just fortunately enough, the more games that I got, the more kind of relaxed you'd get, So as time goes on, you relax a bit, but there'd still be a couple of nerves or whatever, and still thinking about, what happens here or what'll I do here. There's always decisions like that.
What do you like the night before a game? Are you a nervous wreck?
I'm not actually, no. I just I put it to one side as such. I just try to take my mind off it as best I could. And then the day of it or whatever, you'd kind of just start thinking about it more. Nerves aren't really something that kind of stick with me a lot. Because I remember just when we were younger, we were always told just play the game, not the occasion. It's hurling, it's what you go out to do every day. It's no different from a challenge game or a league game or anything like that. The principles are still the same. The fundamentals, the basic things are always have to be done.
Your role within the side and how it's grown over the last few years, I don't know if Henry had great expectations when you went in on day one, because the goalkeeping role has evolved massively in recent times, and puck-out strategy is all important. When you went in that first year, was he building a puck-out strategy, or was it actually, Dean, it's your first year, let's do the basics, get it as far down, get it down to TJ, let him worry about the rest of it?
I know there was definitely puck-out strategy between it, all right, because Richie O'Neill was with us as well, with Henry, and he's with Galway there now, and Richie is big into kind of puck-out, and from playing in the goal himself, he knows like the good and the bad things or whatever, so we always try to make the most out of the puck. It wasn't the case of just high and long and find TJ or Colin or any of them, it was always, each puck-out has a purpose, and you need to just keep the ball to the hand, keep it up, don't let it hit the ground and stuff like that,
right,
whether it's short or long.
Richie O'Neill's obviously, as you say, he's gone with Henry to Galway, so clearly a big brain when it comes to hurling. Would you have had a lot of conversations with him?
I would, yeah, definitely. Even with St. Kieran's College, he would have came in a couple of different times, and we would have done a couple of different training sessions or whatever. And also with Kilkenny Minors and under-20s as well, Richie was a big part of it there, especially with the under-20s for 2 or 3 years there. So it would have been stuff with Richie that I would have done, and then he was with the club then as well. So everything that we would have had done before could go to the next level.
I want to play a clip of Tommy Welsh. You know all about this, but for the listeners who wonder about Ballyhale and, as I put it, the family tree of Ballyhale and the various different links between the families, we had Tommy Welsh on a couple of years ago who explained it better than I ever could. I'll play you this. The lineage is getting confusing in Kilkenny at this stage. So Owen Cody is Henry Shefflin's nephew, is that it?
Yeah, sure. It is amazing, really, the Ballyhale connection. The Reeds, the Shefflins, and the Codys. The Reeds, the Shefflins, and the Fenleys. So all the Mullins, their mam is a Fenley. The Codys, their mam is a Shefflin. Evan Shefflin is obviously a Shefflin. His father is Tommy, a great coach as well. And then you have the Fenleys by themselves and the Reeds by themselves. So them three families, they're amazing, really, and the lineage that's coming after them. And when you go back up the line again, the Fenleys, they're related to Brian Cody's mam. I think that basically, say, Colin and Michael's granny would be a sister, I believe, of Brian Cody's mother. So when you go back, say, Brian Cody would be first cousins now with say Kevin Fenley. Any of our listeners maybe that would be following hurling in the 80s and that, the likes of Ger Fenley and Liam Fenley, Sean Fenley, they're all first cousins.
I didn't realise that.
Brian Cody.
So the Fenley brothers are first cousin of Brian Cody. Wow.
Say Michael and Colin's dad.
Yeah.
Them Fenley brothers. Yeah. So the lineage, and you often heard me speaking about breeding, and you can't be breeding, but that's probably just exceptional. To be proud of that in Ballydale.
You can't be breeding, Dean. It's pretty much an unfair advantage you have down in Ballyhale with that sort of lineage.
Oh, it is, yeah, definitely, and just fortunate enough, the numbers are there. The families that are there, they've been there 30, 40 years ago or whatever, and they're still here today, and that's what kind of brings everyone together as well. You're out to prove a point again, either your father or your uncles or whatever, you say, oh, you played back then and now I want to play now, and you'd look up to them as well, the fact that when they were winning things as well,
Where do the Masons fit into it? Are you very much your own man, self-made?
I'm not, no. My uncle Brendan would have hurled with the Shamrocks. I think he won a Senior All-Ireland with him. He was also trainer of them in 2007 and 2010 when they won the Club All-Irelands. And then there's Morris Mason then as well. He would have hurled centre-back for the Shamrocks for years also. So there's a few of them before. before me or whatever, but as of recent times it's either kind of just been myself and the younger brothers on the panel there this year now as well.
I did think when I was down there a couple of years back about like the pressure that must be on the coaching ticket, considering the amount of great hurlers that were there, and I think it's 6 All-Ireland winning captains have come from Kilkenny, and even all the Fennelly brothers and that great team of the 70s, that the debates that must go on around Ballyhale. I know when I was down there that it was probably in a difficult enough spot with the bypass and that the pubs had shut at that stage, but the constant questions that must be asked about the senior management team from some of the greatest hurlers of all time, you need a good reputation, and you need to be pretty steely in your opinions, I'd imagine, to manage down in Ballyhale.
Oh, definitely. It's tough to come into a job then as well when you're winning also. Like different people, like some people would say, oh, I don't want the job there or whatever, and it's tough for me to come in and stuff like that, but like in recent times, whatever, it's always kind of been someone from the club would have been involved, and then they would get outsiders for a year or two to freshen things up. So that's kind of what they do, is just change things around or whatever. And if people have the hunger and all the willpower to buy into the new management or whatever, so be it, and just drive on from there.
It'll be a funny one for Henry watching on at the weekend. I'm sure desperate for Ballyhale to win, but keeping a close eye on the St Thomas players. I'm wondering which of them he'd bring in to the Galway setup. I know talking to him a couple of years ago, he said he'd never manage against Ballyhale. He said he'd never, and at the time I sort of took that he'd never manage against Kilkenny. What was the general reaction like in Ballyhale when word came through?
Well, I suppose just before that or whatever, everyone was just looking at, oh, Davy Fitz is going to go, he's gone, that's it, And then the Tuesday or the Wednesday or whatever, then it just came out then that Henry Shefflin was gone, and everyone was kind of questioning it a bit, and they were like, oh, what's that about, And everyone was kind of a bit of a shock to him or whatever. But looking back on it now, and at the time, I think it was probably the best thing he could have done to expand on his managerial skills and try to do the best he can do, So I think it's probably a good move for him.
This match, I think everyone's looking forward to it at the weekend, and everyone really missed the absence of the All-Ireland series last year. Are you feeling a bit of pressure? Is there any pressure with the success that you've had over the last couple of years, that going in as favourites, that there's a real sense of expectation around this Ballyhale side?
Yeah, there would definitely be a bit of pressure on you or whatever, because everyone is kind of at the back of their heads. They're thinking, well, if we get over this weekend, we have a chance of making history, like 3 in a row for a club has never been done. So that's always in at the back of our minds or whatever, Yeah.
What do you do yourself to deal with that then? It's a club setup, so I don't know if there's sports psychologists in there, or do you just talk to some of the other players? Do you talk to management? How does that all work?
Yeah, so we just talk to the management and the players, and we talk about different things that could happen in the game, or what to go right, what could go wrong, and what to expect from the opposition. That's all we can do coming into the games. We'd always try and say that, keep the ball, keep the possession, get the scores, and you'll win the game, but sometimes it's harder to actually do it than say it, So it's just keeping the head down for the weeks coming into the game or whatever, and just work hard in training. Yeah,
St Thomas's know how to win in All-Ireland. It's a little bit back for them. Have you got much of an opportunity to watch them, to look back at games that they were playing in the Galway Championship?
We've looked at a couple. I would like to kind of watch them play against Clarenbridge in the Galway final as well. They're a very good team. Any team in Galway, club team that's in Galway that's doing very well, like 4 in a row for them is huge as well. And even in Galway, so there's definitely a big presence of players there in St Thomas's that are driving it on in Galway, and that's evident to see as well.
Yeah. Dean, very best of luck this weekend. What age are you now?
I'm 21.
21, and could well by the end of this year have 3 All-Ireland club titles. How many county medals have you?
4.
4. All right. You're not doing too bad.
No.
It's going all right.
Yeah, hopefully it keeps going now.
Exactly. But Dean, thanks a lot for talking to us, and very best of luck at the weekend.
Cheers, thank you.
That is Dean Mason there of Ballyhale Shamrocks. We said Ballyhale taking on St Thomas's of Galway at 3:30 on Sunday. We'll have reports on that on Sundays Off the Ball. It's all with thanks to the AIB Club Championship, celebrating the toughest players in Gaelic games, those who keep going and persevere no matter what, and this Sunday showdown set to be no exception.